sexual assault, it prevents us from discovering who we were born to be. It throws us off course. But that's all it does. It throws us off course. It doesn't steal our potential. It may take us a little while to get back to it, and not everybody will make it back. When I was on, in 2010, I was fortunate enough to be reached out to be one of the 200 men on the last season of the Oprah Winfrey Show. And that was a huge difference from 20 years before when we couldn't find one person. We had 200 men. That was such an amazing thing to know we couldn't find one, and now in just 20 years we find 200 who are willing to step forward. And many of them said they didn't want to talk, they didn't want to tell their stories, but they were willing to have their faces shown. They were willing to speak up to say this happens to little boys and this happens to men too. That was an amazing and complicated experience for me because I could see where many of the men were on their spectrum of healing. And some of them were at the very beginning, and I felt that they were being maybe unintentionally traumatized, but they had a choice. We all had a choice. And some of them were in the middle. I wanted more stories about how you survive. I wanted some more information about what were the strategies, because behind the scenes when Miss Winfrey asked how many people had, thought about suicide or attempted suicide, about 2/3 of the hands went up, and about 1/3 of the others were still sitting there thinking, I'm not going to raise my hand. I don't care what anybody says because people are looking at me, and I'm not going to admit to that weakness or vulnerability based on where I am on my healing journey. But unfortunately, too many men, boys, women, and girls not only think about suicide, but attempt suicide because the pain is so great. Imagine that you had a really bad toothache and you needed to go to the dentist. Now imagine you had a toothache for 20 years. And imagine you thought that toothache could never stop. People just want pain to stop. The emotional pain, the spiritual pain, in some ways the physical pain. We now know, because of scientific research, the adverse childhood experience scale, all these biological, physiological things that can happen to your body if your body is drenched with these stress hormones year after year after year. We know some things now that's really exciting, that it can help maybe short circuit people not having to live through the kind of things that some of us had to live through maybe 25 years ago. I think it's amazing that we have this synergy between neuroscience and biology and physiology and psychology and the people who are willing to collaborate and work together for the good of their clients. There was not a lot of research to find 25 years ago. There's much more to find now. The challenge is finding legitimate information now because of the internet. You can find as much bad information as good information. And I just hope people at the beginning of their journeys are finding the good information that is, supported and validated that can actually help them understand what's really going on. Because the risk of finding the bad information and maybe doing some things that aren't good for you, that cause bullying, and also being careful about who you tell and the safe spaces about who you should tell. And I believe that we need stories from the spectrum, from the beginning, from surviving. And surviving is very basic. It's breathing in and out, trying to eat, trying to sleep, trying to go to work and get through the day. That's surviving. But then the next phase is we try to search to understand what's going on. What happened to me? Why did this happen to me? And then through that search, we begin to realize, wait, this wasn't my fault. If we give ourselves permission to take that journey, and when we get to the realization, then we can start healing. But a lot of people get caught in the spiral of just surviving, breathing in and out, getting through the day, that kind of thing. But the journey to thriving, from surviving to fighting to realizing to healing, it's worth taking, and it is doable.